From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Happy Tuesday and welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. Thank you for taking time to tune into the show this morning and joining it. Please make sure to follow, share, subscribe, like, and everything else. Comments are always welcome during the show. We've got a packed show, really digging into Deepseek AI. So yesterday on the show, if you missed it, you want to tune into that. We talked a little bit about Deepseek and kind of what was going on there. Today, we have a whole lot more detail, including MGM also settling several of their class action lawsuits from the cyber attack that occurred just a few years ago, and an Apple Zeroday, the first of the year, getting patched, and we're only a month into the year, not even 28 days into the year, and all of this is already happening. So join me as we get into this morning's show, powering us up by some magic dose of caffeine. I've got my double espresso here, by the way. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. If you're an espresso drinker, I'd love to know like your favorite roast. Like if you've got like specific beans you really enjoy, I want to know all about it. So let's go ahead and kind of get the ball rolling here. So Deepseek AI kind of popped into the scene, not new, but they really disrupted the market over the weekend when they released their app in the US, which was kind of in beta. The training models appeared to be much better. There was a lot of hype and people buying into the hype and Wall Street and people freaking out. And as more and more details become kind of there, we do realize that the threat of China that I've been talking about on the show for so long is true and real. And it's so because there's a rumor going on that they were able to obtain some of the high-powered AI chips from NVIDIA and use those in the development of this model. Now, they won't admit it, and there's obviously a restriction in terms of selling it, but then again, they may have used a shell company in a friendly spot to buy those chips and then take those to China. There will need to be an investigation that comes to this. So they released their model, and obviously there's a whole bunch of stuff to go on there. First of all, I did a little digging yesterday, just a little bit, right? First of all, good morning to the interpreter and cheers. Yes. Is the following. So here's the deal. I did some digging yesterday on Deepseek, and here's what I found. One, all the data in the AI training model is stored in Chinese data centers, meaning you don't have separation of data. So trying to use this in your company just from a compliance perspective will fail miserably. Now, I think Deepseek AI is into the scene because the PRC, the People's Republic of China, aka the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, wants to have its own AI model that companies have to use in China, and they manipulate it. Obviously, you've seen, if you've looked into this just briefly, if you ask them about the Tiananmen Square massacre, Deepseek's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm only here to give you, like, it's deeply rooted with a communist propaganda training engine. That's really important to understand from a personal perspective, but also from a business perspective there as well. But kind of the cherry on top of the cake, if all of that didn't do for you yesterday, was the cyber disruption that occurred to Deepseek AI. And that cyber disruption is, Deepseek is saying like they stopped signups because of it. They're saying that what they described is an attack that looks more like a DDoS. It likely is a DDoS on their signup API. So in most cases, there's a signup API, and typically if you don't put enough power behind it, if you don't expect to blow up and all of a sudden you blow up, that's where you get kind of like the circle of death. People can't sign up and kind of goes crazy. It's typically because that API doesn't do the right load balancing and whatnot. That's likely the case here. Deepseek's also warning users about fake social media accounts impersonating the company. You don't need to worry about that. And by the way, here's the great comment. Even the blind can see that China is the number one threat in every respect, like you keep saying. Yeah, the interpreter. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. China is the biggest threat to the United States and to the world itself. And obviously, when they're releasing this type of AI model, and in this AI model, they're using communist propaganda, and then that becomes some sort of source of truth, you can imagine what that can do in terms of the population. So there's an aspect to that that also needs to be there, but there's a balance between freedom of speech and freedom of access to national security. And that's a balance that the Trump administration and Mike Walls and the CIA and NSA and the and SecDev Pete Hegseth are going to have to make decisions on, including DHS Secretary Kristen O. They have a lot on their plates. Threat intelligence firm Kela reported that they found several security flaws, saying its red team was able to jailbreak the model across a wide range of scenarios. By doing so, they were enabled to generate malicious outputs like ransomware development, fabrication of sensitive content, and even detailed instructions on creating toxins and explosive devices. So you have that. That makes me feel really good about, Deepseek. The jailbreak methods, like the evil jailbreak, which instructs the chatbot to adopt the persona of an evil confidant, and Leo telling it to adopting a persona that has no restrictions, have long been patched in other models, but there's still work on Deepseek, according to Kela. The threat intel firm's red team also prompted the R1 chatbot to search for and create a table containing detailed 10 senior employees of OpenAI, including private email addresses, phone numbers, and salaries. And unlike ChatGPT, which refuses to provide information when presented with the same request, Deepseek complied and provided what appeared to be made-up information. Again, it's coming from China. It's broke. So just understanding that and using this information, as I'm sure many of you have been getting questions within your organization, can we use it? Can this work? There's a longer list of why you shouldn't use it than one of why you should. So just please, for the love of all things sacred, don't use Deepseek AI. Please, I beg of you. I beg of you. All right. So there's that. We'll move to TalkTalk, a telecom company over in the UK that is now a victim of a cyber breach, where a threat actor is now boasting about the incident on a cybercrime forum. The telecom provider said it's working with a third-party supplier to resolve the issue. They're saying that their systems were compromised, or rather a third-party system was compromised that contained customer information. The data came to light after a threat actor using the name Bond. Bond with a zero, all right? So instead of an O, it's a zero. It's funny. It's British. British humor is wacky. This is one of those. Announcing that they were offering the sale of information of over 18.8 million TalkTalk customers, which was allegedly obtained this month. According to the threat actor post, the exfiltrated information does include names, emails, and email addresses, phone numbers, IP addresses, and other information. TalkTalk said they have an ongoing investigation and they'll respond and provide more data as it becomes available. The last breach they had was nearly a decade ago, and of that, 2 individuals were sentenced to prison in 2018 for that attack. So again, you're kind of seeing that take place right there. A Texas county of 40,000 residents, that's the county of Matagorda, issued an emergency declaration over the weekend following a cyber attack that crippled the systems in the county. On Friday, the Maricopa County Emergency Operations Center published a statement warning that a cybersecurity breach has been discovered involving a virus that has affected several internal systems, according to County Judge Bobby Schifferman, issuing a declaration of disaster based on the security breach. They're taking the incident seriously. They're working around the clock with cybersecurity professionals to fully secure and ensure the protection of sensitive information. This does appear to be a ransomware attack, by the way. Officials said the breach appears to have been contained to only the internal county systems, with assistance from cybersecurity experts, the Department of Public Safety Cybersecurity Division, and the Texas Department of Emergency Management and the Department of Informational Services. The FBI has also been notified of the incident. Maricopa County is about an hour and a half away from Houston. It's home to about 37,000 people in the great state of Texas. So in-person payment cannot be conducted at this time, and residents can mail in checks. Emergency services were not impacted. And again, that's typically the separation in most places. You've got your kind of internal county services on one network, and they're typically intertwined, and then all of your emergency lies on the other one. And that's because of the 9/11, the E911 post 9/11 law that was passed by the Bush administration that requires emergency services to be on a separate network altogether. So there's that. there. And obviously this shows you one thing, by the way. When you look at a county that small, declaring an emergency just shows you the lack of resources. And the reason they declared an emergency there is because they don't have the resources to deal with it. So by declaring an emergency, they trigger the state, and the state of Texas then sends in its boys and gals to help deal with the attack. And the state of Texas has a lot of tools in its arsenal when it comes to responding to cybersecurity incidents. So there's that there. MGM has been given a preliminary approval for a $45 million settlement in a consolidated class action lawsuit that was brought against MGM Resorts International for two different data breaches, one in July of 2019 and the other one in September of 2023, following the Black Hat event there, which many believe is the reason why DEF CON is no longer hosted in MGM facilities, is because of this ransomware attack for whatever reason. Hackers broke into the resort operator's system twice, according to the suit filed in the U.S. District Court of Nevada, which combined two class action lawsuits over separate breaches into one complaint. In one, the attackers stole data, including sensitive information like driver's license number, passport numbers, and customer addresses. The ransomware attack back in September of 2023 disabled the resort's operators' key systems for several days, including those to hotel rooms, as well as taking gaming machines offline. The suit claims the attackers gained access to customer information during the attack. An estimated 37 million people were affected by both of those attacks. The suit alleges that MGM failed to implement data security practices, resulting in the breaches. MGM has declined to comment. This settlement should put this past them there as well. So we'll see exactly what takes place. The FTC did file to dismiss the MGM suit in June when the company opposed. In August, the parties have continued to file procedural motions, and Khan has now officially resigned as the FTC chair. Trump has appointed Andrew Ferguson as the sitting commissioner to lead the agency for now. We'll see what happens with the FTC suit. Apple on Monday announced patches for dozens of vulnerabilities across its mobile and desktop products, including an iOS flaw that's being exploited in attacks as a Zeroday CVE 2025-24085. The exploited bug is described as a use after free issue in a core media component that could be exploited by malicious applications to elevate their privileges. Apple is aware of the report of this issue being actively exploited against versions of iOS before iOS 17.2. Apple says the security defect was addressed with improved memory management, but didn't specify details on that as well. iOS 18.3 and iPad 18.3 were released on Monday. Those address for the Zeroday bug, as well as 28 other bugs. And then macOS Sequoia 15.3 rolled out, again, addressing that same bug with 60 other issues. So you want to make sure you get your Apple devices updated. In Israel, Iranian attackers hijacked an emergency alert system that's available in schools by taking it over. And these systems that are in schools are designed for, like, when an incoming bomb comes in or there's a terror attack, kind of releases all of that. It releases the alerts that students and faculty need in order to make sure everyone was safe. They were able to hack that system and played videos and music. They played music of pro-terror in Arabic on the systems. They compromised the Magar Tech, an Israeli electronics firms that operates the panic button systems in schools. The company told local media it disconnected the affected system, was investigating the breach. Approximately 20 kindergartens, among other educational institutions, were impacted. The group said it wiped the company's system after sending the alert. Magartech's website was offline at the time this article was written. Israeli security agencies have launched an investigation, and this is obviously kind of pointing the finger at Iran and their pro-Palestinian proxies there as well. Vulnerabilities in open source and commercial LTE and 5G implementations could lead to a persistent denial of service condition, leaving some metro areas or cities without cellular connectivity, according to researchers from the Florida Institute of seven researchers from the Florida Institute for Cybersecurity Research and the North Carolina State University identified 119 different flaws, including issues remotely exploitable to compromise and access the cellular core. Every one of those vulnerabilities could be used to persistently disrupt all cellular communications. Again, kind of showing you just how the FCC's dropped the ball on telecom. In 1994 bill did require from Congress signed in a law required the FCC to oversee information security in telecoms for 30 years. They never enforced that bill at the FCC level. And then we got Salt Typhoon. And now we're seeing the effects of just how vulnerable our LTE 5G mobile networks are, and just how much telecoms need to step up their activities in order to secure those. It's a great little piece of research here about the stuff they're talking about, how they've analyzed all different components within these networks and identified these flaws. Of the 119 flaws they identified, 93 were assigned CVE identifiers. So that's significant. And finally, for just $50, you can get your own kind of Gen AI with no guardrails. A recently deputed AI chatbot called Ghost GPT has given aspiring and active cyber criminals a handy new tool in developing malware, carrying out business email compromise scams, and executing other illegal activities. Bad actors can use Ghost GPT to generate malicious code and receive unfiltered responses to sensitive or harmful queries that traditional AI systems would block, according to Abnormal Security. In a blog post this week, Ghost GPT is marked for a range of malicious activities, including coding, malware creation, and exploit development. It can be used to write convincing emails for business email compromise scams, making it a convenient tool for committing cybercrime. A test a security vendor conducted of Ghost GPT's text generation capabilities showed the AI model producing a very convincing DocuSign phishing email. For example, again, they're stepping up their game. We've got to do defense in depth to address all of that. That's it for our show this morning. By the way, I want to thank our friends at Nudge Security for supporting the show. Tomorrow we'll air our ad for our friends over there at Nudge Security, so make sure you don't miss it. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.